So this we're going to start doing these demonstration videos here on the actual workbench to kind of help you guys understand the parts, accessories, different types of things that you're going to find from our Dirt Cat Racing brand, which is a parts manufacturer as well as tools manufacturer. This chassis, or this, not chassis, I'm sorry, this vehicle stand is also made by Dirt Cat Racing. This is full aluminum anodized chassis plate with screw. It'll screw up and down, allow you to raise and lower the height. It's also very easy to move your model around. It's got a scale built into it here and a tray as well, so it'll help you do a lot. Now, to get to the meat and potatoes of this particular video, one of the things, what I have laid out here, and it's sort of messily, and you'll have to forgive me, is several parts that we're going to be upgrading this Traxxas pre-runner stadium truck. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Latrax brand, we don't sell Latrax specifically in the hobby mode website, as we're an importer. But Dirt Cat Racing, of course, our manufacturing brand, makes parts for everything, right? So in case you've never got to look at these 18th scale, stadium truck from Latrax, it's a fun little truck. We actually make quite a bit of parts for the Latrax brand. We also have, if you're familiar with the Teton, we also support this vehicle, as well as the on-road off-road car that Latrax makes as well. So, we have a lot of parts and accessories, whether you're looking to get yourself into a good suspension. These are oil-filled, adjustable, anodized aluminum, complete aluminum, including the body. These are very high quality shocks. As you can see on this particular model, we actually, the factory shocks on these are completely plastic, and so this won't even work properly. It's already lost the spring seat at the bottom, and so we had trouble out of the suspension on this one, so we thought it would be a good candidate to show you guys suspension upgrades that Dirt Cat Racing make for a plethora of different vehicles. Now we do specialize in parts for the imports that Hobby Mode specifically brings in. But again, like I said, very popular vehicles like the Arma Granite, things like that, we'll also be making parts for as well. And soon to be, we'll be getting into the larger fifth scales. So for those of you who are interested in the very small and then the very large, we will be there for you. So first thing is disassembly. We are going to put suspension arms. Let me see if I can move this a little bit where you can see it better. We're going to put suspension arms on this model. We're going to put C-hubs and carriers on this model. Okay. In red anodized aluminum. These are all CNC machined. That way, when we get done with this particular unit, and of course we'll have new hardware. All of our kits come with new hinge pins, new bolts and screws and shock posts. Everything is in the kit for you, ready to go. Okay, so when you get them, and we try to do the best quality inspections we can before we push these parts out and package them up. this particular, here you have drive lines. We're going to put aftermarket drive lines in here, dog bones, whatever you want to call these. And so when we get done, this entire suspension here, outside of the steering links and turnbuckles, will be CNC machined aluminum, which will enhance the structural rigidity of this truck significantly, making everything a little bit stiffer, giving the truck a little more weight to actually handle better. So we're looking forward to this build, but we wanted to get you guys started in some of these demos. So when we start the next round, I'll go ahead and disassemble the front end so that we can start putting everything together. Now, each particular item will be individually packaged. So if you order, unless you order a kit, and then what we'll do is we'll put. So, for example, if you ordered a full suspension kit, we're going to individually package each particular component. That way, when you open up the kit, you know what goes with what. So, for example, if you can see how we've done these arms here, you're going to see that for this set of arms, your hinge pins, your shock mounts, and the new bolts and retainers are packaged specifically with this pair of arms. And you're going to see that, whether it's front, rear, back, everything's going to be like this, ready for you. Your shocks, let's say you buy a new set of shocks. We're going to sell shocks in pairs, but let's say that you buy a couple of pairs of shocks. You're going to have, we're just going to sell them 4 as a set, obviously, but then we're going to sell them in pairs too, because, if you break a shock, you don't really want to have to buy a whole new set. So we're going to have those both, but depending on which you buy, for example, this would have been a whole set. You're going to have your components packaged, ready to go with your shocks. So, and when we do these shocks, you get full rebuild kits and O-rings and everything with it. So keep these, put them up in your box, and when your shocks start getting weak, rebuild them with these components, and we'll have these available on the site to further build these shocks for years to come. So our goal here is to not be one of those fly-by-night parts manufacturers. So we're going to only make parts for a specific set of vehicles, and unless those vehicles for some reason go out of production, we'll always continue to make parts for those vehicles as long as we're in business. So that's why we're being really selective about what we pick. If Traxxas, for example, quits making the Latrax, then we'll stop making parts for it. But they've got 3 good vehicles in this 18th scale lineup. We're fans of the Latrax. It's a good little vehicle. I think to some extent it may be overpriced for the way it comes from the factory, but that's typical American level RC, right? So one of the things that we're doing too is when you look at some of this Traxxas 18th scale stuff, we're also going to show you some of the bigger 16th scale. Introduce you to that. Now we're going to introduce you to our import brands for the 16th scale, because we believe they're some of the highest quality for the money. You won't find, we promise you, we've looked, we've turned the world over, you won't find 16th scale vehicles as high quality as what we're going to show you, especially at the price we're going to show you. So anyway, let's get together our setup here. I'm going to unpack the tools, and then we're going to get to building this Latrax pre-runner. Okay, so we've got the dog bones out. We've got the C-hub off, and some bearings out. So what you want to do first is, of course, take your hex adapter off. Pull the wheel screw out, take your hex adapter off, pop out the screws in the top and the bottom of the C-hub, and that's going to allow you to pull out your bearing carrier, and then take something and pry off the steering link from the bearing carrier. And once you do that, you'll be able to pull your dog bone out. And then as you can see, this one is all plastic. Okay, this is all plastic. And if you upgrade these trucks and put like heavy duty brushless motors in them, you'll toast these because they're plastic. So our new system is beefier, and it is CNC machined from steel. Okay, and it has a universal joint protector on it. Okay, and so it's going to go back in there in the same way, and it's going to fit right in there and then go back through your bearing carrier just like your original part. And you're going to get a much higher quality part. When you look at the difference between ours and theirs, you're going to realize immediately what you're up against. So for example, let me give you an example. Here's the factory part. Okay, this is a factory dog bone, right? I can't hardly get it to, but this is a factory dog bone. Watch this. You can literally bend them with your hand. They're plastic. Like the dog bone itself is plastic. Was pretty. I think that's the first time we'd ever seen that. And so you won't bend these. These are steel. Okay, not without some tools. So you're going to get, this is the type of quality that we're talking about. We find these imports, these models that we bring in, and we look for weakness, and we develop parts that make sense to solve for those weaknesses. So that's what you're seeing here. And you're going to get your bearings, of course, out of your bearing carrier. Your bearings are going to fit right back in to the new CNC machined bearing carriers. And the factory bearings that come with these units are pretty good. We don't really have any complaints as far as that goes. Make sure that you get your bearing in square. Use the dog bone itself because it's a tight fit around the bearing. Use the dog bone itself to kind of wiggle your bearing in and make sure that it seats appropriately. And as you can see, it's easy, free, very, very good quality bearing. So we have no complaints on the bearing side. But and then you want to take and put both of your bearings in to your carrier. Okay, and ensure you got a good test fit with your dog bone itself, and make sure that your bearings are fitting well. And in some cases, you may have to take a little bit of sandpaper just to knock off the burrs. We try to do as much as we can with it, but depending on the regular sizes and the bearings and everything like that, you may have some debris that needs to be cleared. And if so, just knock it off with some light sandpaper, because you don't want it to make it loose. But as you can see, this one fit perfectly. It's very tight. It's nice. The bearing works extremely well. It's a good tight fit against the metals. Absolutely no complaints here. The quality, that we're putting into the Dirt Cat brand we hope is second to none for you folks. So that's how that's going to work. And then, of course, you will use the factory hardware for the tops and the bottoms to mount these back in, just like so. Okay. once you put them back. And then these will go into the carrier once we get back. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is, now that we see how this is going to work, we'll set it off to the side as sort of an assembled there, and then we're going to remove the suspension arm itself. We're going to take a pair of pliers and pop off this dog bone link, turnbuckle length, and we're going to pop this C-hub out. Okay, and this is going to be a little bit tricky, because the way they've done this is it's a very fine micro hole over here. There's a screw over here. You pull this screw out, and then there's a very tiny pin over here in this side, and you have to push that through, and then your C-hub will fall out, and then you can just twist it off of your turnbuckle link here. Okay, and at that point there's two screws in the front for the bumper here, but that also acts as a cover for the hinge pins that are on the axles. So we pull this off, we pull the hinge pins out, suspension arms come right off, and we simply put in the new hardware with the new suspension pins and do the reverse installation. Okay, so I'll come back to you as soon as we get some of that done. Okay, folks, so now we have both arms off and the front suspension completely disassembled to the point that we're ready now to start focusing on the arms and the suspension components themselves. So if you will kind of look here just a second, I want to call attention to laying things out so that you know the orientation of the new suspension components, how the new suspension components need to be orientated before you start having a mess of parts laying on your bench and forget how things went. So take your factory components and just kind of compare and make sure that everything looks and is turned the appropriate way, and that'll help you really understand what you need to do. And it also helps you make sure that, because there are various different holes for adjustments here. Now our arms are made to be just a fraction wider, because we want to bring the wheels out just a fraction. So you're talking about an 1/8 of an inch longer, which push the wheels out, push the track width to a 1/4 inch wider. But it just helps you understand your orientation. And then once you know that everything is good here and you're ready to go back together, you just start by putting your A-arms in with your hinge pins on each side. Go ahead and make sure that you add your C-hub here and put your lock screw in so that your pin doesn't fall out. This will make it much easier. And then when you put your hinge pin in here, okay, you can reach over and grab your turnbuckle and lock him in place to kind of help hold the thing up there. So we'll get both arms on, and then we'll be back with you. Okay, so now we've got the suspension arms back on the front of the vehicle, looking pretty good. Okay, so again, you put in the hinge pins, roll your your C-hubs back, pop your turnbuckle on. Now, something to note is these turnbuckles are plastic. Okay, everything basically on this vehicle is plastic, and the plastic turnbuckle against the steel ball that's in that we provide for the CNC pieces, it's a little tight, and so it's going to take it a little bit to wear that out. Now you can put a little bit of white lithium grease under there, just a little. So what I would suggest that you do is, before you pop this back on, just put a very fine bit of white lithium grease in the very center of this if you're going to keep these factory turnbuckles. If you go with our aftermarket factory turnbuckles, you won't have this issue. So just note that. Okay. The suspension will keep it, after it works a little bit and frees up, the suspension, it won't be an issue. But just take note that it will be a little stiff when you first get it in here, and it's only because these plastic dog bones are grippy on these steel balls. Okay. So we've got our arms on, we've got our C-hub in, and so we're now ready to the point where we are going to push our dog bone back through the C-hub and into the holder there. Oops. Oh, gotta get my screw out of here. I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Getting too far ahead of myself. Just take you a pair of tweezers and get that rotate your dog bone so that it goes into the slot, and then you need to take the factory screws. Now these factory screws are a shoulder screw, so you want to continue to retain those factory screws. And get it started if you're using an electric driver. This one is a torque driver, so it stops at a specific torque. But you want to make sure that before you really go nuts with screwing it down, that you've got it in there, because you don't want to booger the threads up on the aluminum. As great as aluminum is, it's still a metal. So. And you can have, once you get those torqued up a little bit, you want to work your hub back and forth a little bit, making sure that to its furthest and least extent, and just make sure that it's nice and easy. Okay, so once that's done, you are really set at this point to put your steering link back on. Just make sure that your balls that you've put in place are tight on your CNC arms. So, and what I mean by that is these ball joints that your shocks mount to, that your steering links mount to, make sure they're screwed in tight and all the way down to the metal. Okay, and that includes the ones here on your shocks as well. Okay. And then we just want to get that in place. Okay. She's looking good so far. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the other side to the same point. We're going to put the steering link back on, and then we'll go into the shock installation. Okay, folks. So we are back now, and we have fully assembled front suspension, entirely in CNC aluminum. You can kind of have a look at that. Let me see if I can bring it up a little better for you so you can see that. And this is how we do it with Dirt Cat Racing. Whatever situation you're in, whatever parts you need, we're going to look for those models out there that we can support, that we believe are going to be out there for the long haul, and we're going to try to make them as awesome as we can. So here we've swapped out the suspension arms, we've swapped out the C-hub and the bearing carrier, we've put in heavy duty steel dog bones. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to give this thing a much better suspension. These are the new replacement shocks, and they are extremely smooth. They are both adjustable. Okay, they have seating, removable seating. eyelets that move. We can get different spring adjustments for you, and of course they are oil filled with their O-ringed and bladdered. So you know, whether you want to give your vehicle a change in ride height, you know, you've got that adjustability here. Just remember, you know, ride height, these adjustments on shocks are changing ride height, okay? For those of you who are just learning about the hobby, they're changing your ride height. If you want to actually change the way the shock works as far as softness or stiffness, two things: the viscosity of the silicone oil that you have in the shock, and the spring rate. Okay, these springs come in different rates, and we usually mark them by pounds, and that is how you really want to change and tune the quality of your ride, but because the adjustment here is going to get you height. Okay, so you would adjust this to wherever you want it to go, and then that makes the spring progressively tighter. It's not actually changing the weight of the spring or anything. It's just reducing the amount of flex that this spring can actually achieve, and then thus giving the vehicle a higher ride height. So think of it in that terms. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take these new aluminum shocks and we're going to put them in place on the truck, right up here front, to achieve our you know, overall goal. So we're going to do that next, and then we'll get you the next video. Okay, and we're back for the grand finale. So the factory balls that hold your shock on from the factory you won't need with the aftermarket suspension, because we go back to a traditional Allen key bolt, and that goes in to the front and bottom of the shock, so that you can use your Allen key to pull your shocks off rather than trying to finagle with snapping them on and off of a ball. I've pre-configured the shocks with about 1/4 inch of height adjustment on the on the barrel of the shock, and what you want to try to achieve when your truck is loaded, sitting on the ground, is you want to try to achieve a flat suspension, a flat base with just a slight downward momentum. If you're trying to get handling and you really want to race these trucks. If you're looking to just monster truck it and, you know, go with as much suspension as possible, well, that goes without saying. You know what to do. But if you're trying to get the best ride for a racing application, try to get your suspension arms just below level. So level them, and then just a bit below level. So as you can see, you know, we've swapped out the A arms. Oops, we've swapped out the suspension arms, A arms, whatever you want to call them. We've put in the bearing carriers, the C hubs. We've put in new dog bones, all steel, all CNC aluminum. We've got everything back together now, and we've put in a nice new set of aluminum shocks to top it all off with new hardware, and it's ready to go, folks. And so now we're going to rinse, repeat for the rear end, and have it looking like that as well. And we'll continue our build out of this Latrax pre-runner. Our next build will probably be a little larger vehicle. We'll go with the 14th scale. We're probably going to or maybe we'll do the 16th scale, I'm sorry. Since this is 18th scale, we'll go up a notch, and then we'll keep moving up the ladder until we get to bigger vehicles. Something you should note, though, is if you are a Latrax fan and you are playing with these Latrax models, let me try to find a way to set this one on there. The Stadium truck is actually does really good on the stands, as opposed to the other two models, and the reason being is the Stadium truck is much longer, has a much longer chassis length than the monster truck, the Teton. But it is only the chassis. It is only the chassis that is different. More next time, folks. Hope you enjoyed this session and seeing the Latrax pre-runner get a new front suspension. And in the next few videos, we'll continue this build. Thank you, folks, for watching.